So, a report dropped 5 days ago that I think every single gig driver in America needs to see. And I am genuinely surprised this has not gone viral yet. Because what it reveals is not just bad news for drivers, it is proof that the platforms have been running a very specific and very deliberate financial playbook against you. And once you see the numbers side by side, you cannot unsee them. Here is what Gridwise Analytics found after analyzing nearly $11 billion in driver earnings across more than 1 billion gig tasks last year. Customers paid almost 10% more for gig services in 2025 than the year before. Driver pay went up less than half of that. And the platforms themselves increased their own cut by more than 33%. Read that again. You paid more. The driver got less. The platform pocketed the difference and then gave itself a 33% raise. That is not an accident. That is not a market condition. That is a decision. And today I want to show you exactly how that decision plays out differently across Uber, DoorDash, and Walmart Spark. Because these three platforms are not all doing the same thing. And knowing the difference could be worth thousands of dollars a year to you. Let us start with DoorDash because this is the one that should make every driver the angriest. DoorDash drivers are currently making $11 per hour according to the Gridwise data. $11. That is the lowest hourly rate of any major gig platform in the country right now. And it gets worse when you look at the pay structure. DoorDash base pay currently represents only 54% of total driver earnings. That means 46% of what you make on DoorDash depends entirely on customer tips and bonuses that can disappear at any moment. And DoorDash driver retention is collapsing because of it. Only 20% of DoorDash drivers are still on the platform after 11 months. 8 out of every 10 drivers who sign up for DoorDash are gone within a year. That is not people finding better opportunities. That is people running away from a platform that does not pay them enough to stay. Now, let us look at Uber. Uber pays better than DoorDash, but it comes with a catch that most drivers do not calculate correctly. Uber measures your hourly rate based on what they call utilized hours. That is the time between accepting a trip and completing it. It does not count the time you spend waiting for a ping. It does not count the time you spend driving to a pickup location with nobody in the car. Uber says their median driver earns over $30 an hour on this measurement. But Gridwise puts the real number at $24.88 per hour when you account for total time on the platform. That gap between $30 and $24.88 is the time Uber does not count. The unpaid waiting time that still costs you gas, wear and tear, and hours of your life. Uber drivers averaged $522 per week in 2025, working about 21 hours of active drive time. But that 21 hours of active time comes with significantly more total time invested once you add all the unpaid gaps. Now here is where Walmart Spark stands in this comparison. And this is the part that actually surprised me when I dug into the data. Spark leads every major delivery platform on base pay percentage. 68% of Spark driver earnings come from base pay. Compare that to DoorDash at 54% and Uber Eats at 57%. That means Spark drivers are less dependent on tips than any other major platform. And that matters enormously in a market where customers are tipping less because they are broke. Spark drivers average $26 per hour according to Gridwise, and $371 per week, working about 15 hours. Now, before you say Spark pays less per week than Uber, the math is more nuanced than that. Spark drivers are working 15 hours to make $371. Uber drivers are working 21 hours to make $522. On a pure hourly basis, Spark is actually winning right now. But here is the catch that every Spark driver needs to know. Spark orders are physically demanding in a way that no other platform met. You are loading and unloading heavy grocery orders. Cases of water, bags of dog food, multiple gallons of milk. The physical wear on your body and your vehicle is significantly higher per hour on Spark than on any food delivery platform. And Spark's acceptance rate system creates a trap that quietly penalizes you for being financially smart. If you decline too many low-paying batches, your access to the high-paying ones gets restricted. So you are forced to choose between taking orders that do not pay enough or risking your access to the ones that do. That is not a fair system. That is a leash. Now here is the bigger picture that connects all three of these platforms. The Gridwise report confirms something that drivers have been feeling but could not prove until now. The platforms are systematically shifting more financial risk onto drivers while keeping more of the revenue for themselves. Spark leads delivery with 68% base pay but is squeezing batch rates in oversaturated markets. DoorDash is at the bottom with $11 an hour and only 20% driver retention after 11 months. Uber pays the most per week but hides its real hourly rate behind a measurement system designed to make the number look better than it is. And all three of them raised their own cut by 33% last year while driver pay grew at less than half the rate of what customers were charged. Now let me add one more layer that makes all of this even more alarming. Gridwise also released their autonomous vehicle impact report this week. And what it found is that in cities where Waymo and other autonomous vehicles are operating, human rideshare drivers are already seeing measurable declines in trips per hour and earnings pressure. Uber has already signed deals with more than 20 autonomous vehicle companies. DoorDash launched a delivery robot called Dot last year that is already operating in metro areas. Walmart is expanding drone delivery through its partnership with DroneUp across multiple states right now. The platforms are not just squeezing your pay today. They are actively building and funding the technology that makes you unnecessary tomorrow. So what do you do with all of this information right now? First, if you are going to drive, make Spark your primary platform, especially if you are in a market with consistent batch volume. The 68% base pay share means you are less vulnerable to tip fluctuations than on any other platform, but track your real hourly rates, including all waiting time, not just active delivery time. Second, if you are on DoorDash exclusively right now, the data says you are on the lowest paying major platform in the country. At $11 an hour before expenses, you are almost certainly working below minimum wage. Once gas and vehicle costs come out. Third, never rely on a single platform for your entire income. The Gridwise retention data shows platforms are losing drivers at a staggering rate, but platforms can also deactivate you without warning. Having 2 or 3 income sources means a single deactivation does not collapse your finances overnight. Fourth, start tracking your real numbers today, not your gross earnings from the app dashboard. Your actual take-home after gas, vehicle maintenance allocation, and self-employment tax set aside. If that number is under $12 per real hour, you are working for less than minimum wage, regardless of what the app tells you. Fifth, treat gig work as a bridge, not a destination. The platforms just told you in their own data that they gave themselves a 33% raise while giving you less than half the increase they charge customers. That is not a partnership. That is extraction. And the moment autonomous vehicles reach a price point that undercuts human drivers, which Gridwise says is already happening in some cities, the extraction ends and the replacement begins. The report that dropped 5 days ago is one of the most important documents in gig economy history. It proves with $11 billion of real data what millions of drivers have been feeling for years. You are being squeezed from both ends, and the platform is getting richer while it happens. Subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next, because this story is moving fast. And go watch the video on screen right now. I will see you in the next one.